I am Dr Fiona Hutton, Senior Lecturer in Criminology at Victoria University, and I do research as an academic and I do teaching as well.
Can you tell us what criminology is?
Well, for me personally, and hopefully for other people as well, criminology, I see it as a critical discipline, so something which takes a critical look at processes of offending, processes of justice, and also, I guess, things like victimisation. And also important, I think, for criminologists to think about is the notion of justice. What do we mean when we talk about justice? Justice for who? You know, who gets justice? So notions of equity within the criminal justice system, within New Zealand society around crime and offending, criminality and deviance. And also the notion of social justice. So, you know, what kinds of things lead to offending and how can we intervene in those things. So what do we, justice and thinking critically about justice is really important.
When we're talking about youth crime, what's the age bracket we're referring to?
Well, in New Zealand, children are seen as being aged between 10 to 13 and young people are seen to be aged between 14 to 16. And other jurisdictions might have under 18s or under 16s or something like that. So it can be tricky in thinking about who do you define as a young offender or a young person, and different types of research, different countries talk about things in different ways. So it can be tricky, but in New Zealand that's what it is. The youth crime statistics, it can be very difficult to get accurate information about youth crime, and the statistics need to be drawn from a number of places like the courts and apprehension police data. But in general, from what we know, they show that youth crime has been in a steady decline since about 2002 and quite sharply since about 2007. So they show that youth crime is going down.
What are the most common offences committed by youth?
Property offending, disorder offences and things like theft. So breaking and entering, unlawful entry, theft, disorder offences are the most common. They make up about approximately just over 60% of youth offending.
What are some protective and risk factors associated with youth offending?
There tends to be lots of lists of risk factors, but most of them show very similar things. So the risk factors would include things like having an unstable, violent or abusive family situation, and family doesn't have to refer to a traditional nuclear family, it can be any family situation. Things like truanting from school, dropping out of school, being excluded from school, drug and alcohol use, being from a low socio-economic group. So those kinds of social factors tend to be the most common risk factors for young people. Also things like having antisocial peers can be seen as a risk factor. And protective factors are just kind of the opposite. So not having pro-social peers, staying in school, having a stable family environment, whatever your family environment is. So having a stable, non-abusive, non-violent situation. There's some issues, I guess, around risk factors and in terms of how many do you need to then be an offender? Do you need 1 or 6 or 3 or and also young people can have all of the risk factors and not be an offender or commit criminal acts. So there's some problems and issues with them, and of course not every single young person who is abused in the family home then goes on to commit crime. So there's some difficulties in looking at